channel. Hi, my name is Roxanne. If it's your first time here, then welcome. Today I wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about some of my favorite nonfiction books so far. Obviously, I have only recently been starting to really get into nonfiction, but it wasn't until maybe the end of last year or so where I really started to get into them and really sort of make it a point to read as many nonfiction books as I could, because I felt like it would be sort of another source of knowledge that I hadn't sort of paid attention to before. So I've been in a nonfiction kick this year. I've been trying to read one nonfiction book a month, and I've been doing so far. It's good so far. So I've read one for the 3 months of the year, and I hope to continue that trend throughout the rest of the year. So I just wanted to go back through some of the ones that I've read and pick out some of my favorite ones and talk to you guys about them, and maybe that see if you guys would enjoy them as much as I did. The first one that I want to talk about is one of my favorite books of last year, and that is When I Was Puerto Rican by Esmeralda Santiago. I've talked about this book so much on my channel. It's essentially a memoir about Esmeralda Santiago, what it was like to grow up in Puerto Rico and then move to the United States, what it's like to live in the mountains, what it's like to grow up poor, what it's like when the United States started to sort of get involved in Puerto Rico, in their educational system and things like that. And so she talks a little bit about how all of that affected her, and it was just a great read for me personally. I really connected with it, and yeah, it's definitely one of my favorites. Probably one of the most impactful books for me personally. Another one is When Everything Changed, or the Amazing Journey of American Women from 1960 to the present, When Everything Changed. And unfortunately, this only goes up to 2008, so it's not up to now, but it does a pretty good job of giving you a good overall history of women's movements and the feminist movement, and the way that things have changed, and the laws that were in place and things like that, and all the battles that we've sort of had to win over time to get the rights that we have, and it obviously still talks about the things that we still have to do and all of that. And so I thought this was a great sort of introduction more into the women's movement and things like that. It's broad and overarching, but I think what it does is a good sort of starting point, because then from here you can go on and look for more specific books that talk about very specific parts of the movements that might interest you or that you might want to know about. So I thought that this was a great starting point for me, and it was probably only the second feminist sort of nonfiction book that I read. So from here I've picked up a lot of other ones that either I have read or I have on my shelf to read, and so I recommend this one. One that I read, I believe in January of this year, was I Am Malala, the girl who stood up for education and was shot by the Taliban. This is a very moving book. You see everything that she's gone through, her and her family, and it's incredibly sad, but you are definitely left with this feeling of hope, and just her outlook on life is so beautiful and hopeful and full of love and just desire to do good, that despite all of the sad things that she talks about in the book, you are left with sort of this feeling where you just want to continue to do work and to make a change and to essentially just help as much as you can. And she's only, I think she's probably like 17 or 18 now, maybe not even that old, and just to see how wise someone so young can be is incredibly impactful. So this is definitely another one that I recommend. The Immortal Life of Henrietta by Rebecca Skloot. If you didn't know, this has been turned into an HBO movie, I want to say, starring Oprah Winfrey, and actually Henrietta Lacks is played by Renee Elise Goldsberry, who, if you are a fan of Hamilton, played Angelica Schuyler. And so this is essentially a book about Rebecca Skloot looking into the life of Henrietta Lacks, whose cells were essentially stolen by a doctor at Johns Hopkins at a medical clinic or hospital that they had, and her cells essentially were found out to be immortal. So they've been used for chemotherapy, for countless medicines and scientific and medical achievements that have helped millions of people, and that have made the individuals who use the cells to figure these things out millions of dollars, and have made medical and scientific institutions millions of dollars. And yet Henrietta's family can barely afford to go to the doctor themselves, and they all suffer from many different medical sort of health issues. And so it talks about the little that we know about Henrietta Lacks, what we've been able to find out about her family. It talks about some of the things that have been achieved with her cells, and it's a very sad book, because it's just another example of the way in which the bodies of women of color have been used, and individuals of color in general, but this one is specifically about women of color who have been used for medical advancement, whose health and sort of well-being was put aside for medical gain and for financial gain. And it's a very impactful book, and I recommend it. And check out the movie if you think you'd be interested in it. Another one that I really, really love is The Devil in the White City by Erik Larson. I don't know if I've said here before, but I studied event management in college. So I have a bachelor's degree in event management and hospitality. And one of the things that we studied in that I always found very fascinating were World's Fairs. They're considered to be some of the biggest events sort of historically. And so, and another thing that I definitely have mentioned in this channel is how much I love to learn about like serial killers and cult leaders and things like that. And so this book brought those things together for me in a really great way. And so this is both about the Chicago World's Fair, and it's about the way in which serial killer H.H. Holmes used the World's Fair as a perfect place for him to be able to find dozens of victims that he killed and pretty much did with as he pleased. He built a hotel in which visitors to the World's Fair could stay at, and the hotel had all of these incredible sort of side doors and tunnels and secret compartments and things like that, in which he would hide and he would steal things. And he was, stereotypical serial killer, very charming, was able to sort of get out of anything and get his way. And it was so interesting to read about both things and how they sort of come together. This is a book that is written sort of like a fiction book. So it's fiction style written nonfiction, which I really appreciated, because I read this when I was still getting into nonfiction and I wasn't very comfortable with it. And so that style of writing really made me be able to get on with it really well. And obviously the topic really called out to me because I'm interested in both things a lot. So I definitely recommend this one if you think that that's something that you would be interested in. So going back again to my event and hospitality education and background and experience, I picked up Heads in Beds, a reckless memoir of hotels, hustles, and so-called hospitality by Jacob Tomsky. This book is hilarious, and I probably enjoyed it more than I would have, because I worked in hospitality and because I worked hotels and resorts and things like that, and because of the educational background that I have. He sort of he doesn't hold anything back. He talks about how horrible work in hospitality can be, how horrible people can be to you, the things that guest services will do to sort of get back at horrible guests. And it's hilarious, and so much of it is true. When you read it, especially if you're someone who maybe doesn't have experience in hospitality, or doesn't have much experience in hospitality, enough to where you've seen a lot of the things that he talks about, you may think that he is pretentious and annoying and just a horrible employee, but really he's not. This is exactly what working in hospitality is like, and I almost wish that everyone had to read a book like this, because working in hospitality can be so horrible, because people can be such assholes and such douchebags. And so I loved this one. It was almost like I was able to, by reading it, get back at all the horrible guests I'd have to deal with in my job. So yeah, read this one, and it's so funny, especially if you've worked hospitality. You would really enjoy this one because it would feel like, yes, someone else who feels exactly the same way that I do. Another one is In the Country We Love by Diane Guerrero. You might know her from Jane the Virgin and Orange is the New Black. This one I think I would recommend more in audiobook than in the physical book. I liked it nonetheless, but I think had I probably listened to it in audiobook, I might have enjoyed it a little bit more. She is incredibly casual in the way she tells her story, which is fine, but I think it would be even more enjoyable listening to it on audiobook, because it literally is like she's just sitting there on a table or on a sofa talking to you and just telling you her life, and she doesn't really make anything try and sound pretty or anything like that. She's incredibly casual in her language, and she just tells you how it is, like if she's talking to a girlfriend or a friend of hers, you know what I mean? So yes, this is about her essentially how she was left by her own on her own at age 14. Her parents were detained and deported back to Colombia, and it's her story. It's about how she was able to survive that and become the woman that she is today. And she's gone on to become an activist for immigrant rights and things like that, and I think it's wonderful. And I think it's a story that deserves to be told, because like hers, there are hundreds of thousands of stories like hers, and I think like I said, they need to be heard. One that is probably no surprise to anyone who knows that I read this is The Autobiography of Malcolm X, as told by Alex Haley. This book is incredibly important and poignant, and it gives you an insight into an incredible human being, an incredible sort of hero of the civil rights movement, and I thought it was great, and I really enjoyed it. And I think it's one of those books that if you want to become an activist and you want to learn more about civil rights and racial issues in this country, then you would really enjoy reading this book. There are things that I sort of disagree with him on, especially in his sort of views on women, but regardless, I loved this book and I learned a lot, and I think that anyone who reads it will as well. Almost done, guys. Another one that I love is Bad Feminist by Roxane Gay. I talked about this in the video that I made about books that I am most thankful for, and this book was integral in my feminist journey. It taught me that it's okay to be an imperfect feminist, that it's okay that you're obviously an imperfect person, you're a human being, and there are things that you might like and enjoy that may not go along perfectly with your feminism, and that's okay as long as you know and you're aware. You're allowed to like rap music, and you're allowed to like bad movies that might not have the best messages, but know that, like, be aware that they are problematic and be aware of their history and things like that. But this is a collection of essays by Roxane Gay in which she talks about her feminist journey and thinks about her life, and I was able to relate to it so much, and I loved it. And like I said, it was definitely integral in my sort of feminist journey, so I recommend it. That's fun, yay! This is The New Jim Crow by Michelle Alexander. I read Mass Incarceration in the Age of Colorblindness. I read this last month and loved it, and there are just highlights and notes and stuff everywhere, because I think, like the autobiography of Malcolm X, I think this is an integral sort of book that you should read if you want to be involved in social issues and in racial issues and things like that. The judicial country in the judicial system in this country is by no means perfect, and it is more unfair to some than others, and I think that we all need to be aware of that. And this book does a great job of pointing that out to you and really laying out all the facts for you in a way that's approachable, in a way that is maddening, because you were just so mad when you're reading this, but everything that she says goes on, and she gives you have all of her sources in the back, which are great, because then you can go from here on and continue to study, and I think it's great. I thought this book was great, was accessible, was amazing. I loved it, and I definitely recommend it, and I'm sure last month is not going to be the last time that I read this book. I think this is one of those books that you go back to time and time again, and you sort of read up on it again and use it as a source for arguments and for your own knowledge. And I think it's just great, and I really recommend it. So those are some of my favorite nonfiction books so far. Like I said, I have many more books that I want to read this year. I might do like a feminist nonfiction TBR for the rest of the year type of video. I don't know. But yeah, let me know if you've read any of these books and what you thought about them. Please let me know if you have any suggestions about books that you think I might like based on the ones that I really enjoyed here. I have one other Erik Larson book that I want to get to. I obviously want to read all of the rest of Roxane Gay's books. There's just so many other books. Esmeralda Santiago has other books as well that I really want to get to. But yeah, those are some of my favorite nonfiction books. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching and for listening. I love and appreciate you guys with all my heart. I love you.